get zero at the table, man, all kinds of shit breaks loose.
Pick me, pick me.
Zero's at the table, you gotta be careful. Tons of shit breaks loose, baby.
Greetings, humans, and welcome back. I'm Joey Pigtails, and this is episode number 10 of my poker vlog, coming to you from the World Series of Poker in Las Vegas. You'll notice the background footage here is B-roll I've shot during the first couple of days in Vegas. The last part of which is what's known as the long walk from the Paris tournament area to the Horseshoe tournament area, so enjoy the madness. In this vlog, I'm going to be recapping my experience at a $500 no-limit hold'em PLO round-and-round tournament that I played at MGM in Vegas on Monday, June 12th, as well as providing a recap of my experiences from the trip and the highlights. There have been a few points in time during this trip where I just had to stop and take this all in. I've always enjoyed the atmosphere of these large events, whether it was a gaming convention like Gen Con or Origins, or here now at the World Series of Poker. These places are filled with people who love the game, the camaraderie, and the competition. They've all come to compete at a high level for a shot at life-changing money and glory, and I've come to do the same. I had the chance to meet a lot of really cool people on this trip, including the 3 other PLO vloggers that I follow, including Donkfish Poker, PLO Professor, and Poker Jesus. If you aren't already subscribed to these guys on YouTube, I highly recommend checking them out. Each of these guys has a unique approach to both the great game of PLO and how they present their vlogs, and their content helps keep me constantly reevaluating my game. Other cool poker personalities I had the chance to meet include Caitlin from Texas, who does her own poker vlog and is also a part of the hilarious Ace Holes vlog. Check out those channels for some great laughs and content. I also had the pleasure of meeting and chatting with the likes of Ryan DePaulo, who gave me a shout out on his vlog. Appreciate you, brother. Conrad from Sulphur Y, met him multiple times, as well as John Party, who's a part of the Punters Pad with Ryan DePaulo right now. I also briefly got to play with Alan Cunningham, who is one of the original greats from the pre-poker boom era, so that was pretty cool. Looking at results from this trip, I sadly have to report that I didn't cash a single event. Not one. I have, however, figured a few things out, including how and what to study to get better at no-limit hold'em tournaments, as well as I identified a few of the errors I was making and adjusted accordingly. There are always opportunities for improvement, and even though we may make optimal decisions in specific situations, there are oftentimes other options we didn't consider and could have chosen that may have made these situations different. When looking back at these events, it's easy for me to point out to my bust-out hands where I got coolered with my aces, getting wrecked by Red King, King, all in pre-flop on a 5-heart board, or maybe my Ace-Queen offsuit, losing to Ace-10 offsuit, all in for 12 big blinds. But the fact is that these bust-out hands are generally a product of the mistakes I have made leading up to that point. This bust-out situation would have been different had I not donked off 10 big blinds with a hero call on a multi-way pot and then donked off another 15 big blinds at a bluff a few hands later. I could fold Ace-Queen offsuit to a 17 big blind shove when I have 21 to 30 big blinds and still sit pretty, or at least have 15 big blinds left after making that call. Every decision matters and every chip matters, and the mistakes that we make can compound, putting us into more difficult situations later. You'll see some of that with these hands from the round-and-round tournament. I did take the time to think about these beats and lament my misfortune, but these events also helped me to put some things in perspective. From tilt control to daily routines to study habits, downswings and runs like this in tournaments always help me to recenter and refocus on the things that I have control of, to hone my habits even further and continue to improve both as a poker player and as a human being. I am thankful to have had some people to talk to during this time. A huge shout out to my friend Jay from North Carolina for lending me your ear. Mad props to you for your amazing run so far. Looking forward to seeing you continue to crush, dude. Before I jump in, I wanted to give one last shout out to Sean McCormick and his staff at MGM, who made it possible for us vloggers to get permission to film. He created a simple process for applying and getting approval, as well as communicated the process and procedures with his staff, so everything was seamless and fluid. Thanks, Sean! Alright, let's get into the hands from this $500 no-limit hold'em PLO tournament at MGM. Alright, so this is a big blind ante tournament, so when you hear me tell you the blinds, remember the big blind is also paying an ante of the same amount. Also, we're supposed to be playing 8-handed, but we're a little short right now to start. The first level is 100-200, and I end up folding all of the hold'em hands until I look down at ace of clubs, jack of clubs in mid-position, and open a 500 off of my 25k starting stack. The big blind defends, and we see a flop of 6 of hearts, 2 of diamonds, 2 of hearts. It's not an ideal board, but I can represent some overpairs, so I fire 700 into 1300, and our villain calls. With 2700 in, the turn is the 8 of diamonds, bringing in a second flush draw, as well as connecting more with the hands this player will defend with. I decide to barrel here since it's early, and I choose a large sizing, which I would do with an overpair on a scary board, and the opponent calls quickly, which is actually pretty alarming. The river is a 6 of diamonds, bringing in the backdoor flush and a second pair to the board, and our opponent now overbets for 11,700. I'd be doing this with both value and bluffs, although I'm chopping with ace highs here, and it's easy for my opponent to continue both streets with a 6, so I end up folding, letting him take this down. In the next hand, I'm in the big blind at 100-200 still, and I look down at jack of clubs, 10 of clubs, 7 of diamonds, 6 of clubs. There's an early position open to 700, 2 calls, and I go ahead and call as well. With a flop of 5 of clubs, 8 of diamonds, 4 of hearts, I flop the nuts here, so let's see if we can both milk this and let our opponents make some mistakes. I check to the aggressor, who leads for 1100, and both of the other players call before I pop it to 6500 with about 13k behind. And unfortunately, every player folds like dominoes, and I'm back up to a starting stack. In the next hand, I'm in middle position and look down at an absolute premium. Queen Jack 10-9 double suited, and I raised a 1k at 200-300 blind levels. The button defends, and we end up seeing a flop of 3 of spades, 6 of diamonds, 7 of hearts, and I flopped a gut shot and 2 backdoor flush draws, but this isn't an ideal board for me. I check, and the button ends up checking back. The turn brings the 2 of spades, and at this point I'm pretty much done with this hand. I check, and the button fires a near pot-sized bet, and I end up folding. And we're back to hold'em. After opening 8-7 of spades the last hand and whiffing a multi-way pot, I look down at 8-8 and open to 700 again. Only the big blind defends, and we end up seeing a flop of ace of hearts, 2 of spades, 5 of diamonds. When check to, I can represent an ace here and end up firing 700 as a bluff, which the big blind ends up calling. The turn is the beautiful 8 of hearts, giving me second set. This villain's been playing a lot of hands with me, so I suspect he's got an ace here and was attempting to get value by calling the flop. I size up a little and fire 2100 expecting a call, and our villain obliges after a little tanking. The river is the king of spades, which shouldn't change anything here. Now our villain leads for 4,000, and I quickly call, although looking back, a raise would have been better. I'm figuring he probably would have called a raise, any size raise at that point, so maybe even a jam. Let me know what you think. I've had a few hands where I called a bet or opened and folded, so not a lot happening for me until this spot where it's folded to me on the button, and I see a suited ace hand that's sort of marginal, but I decide to open it from the button to 1k. Both blinds call, creating a pot of 3,400, to a flop of 4 clubs, 8 of diamonds, 3 of spades, giving me a pair and a straight draw. When checked to, I check back to control the pot and look to improve. The turn is the queen of clubs, giving me the nut flush draw, and I go ahead and fire 1,800 as a semi-bluff with my additional equity. Just the small blind calls, and the river is the 9 of diamonds, giving me 2 pair on a scary board. The small blind checks, and I go ahead and check back, and I'm surprised to see that he only has a pair of queens, and I end up taking this one down. In the next hand, I see Queen 9-8 single suit, and open to 1k at 200-400 from middle position. The button and both blinds end up calling, and we see a flop of Queen of spades, 8 of diamonds, 2 of hearts. I flop top set on an extremely dry board. When checked to, I end up betting 2,500, hoping that one of these guys has something to continue with, but they end up all folding. Should I block bet this board? Let me know what you think. I'm thinking something maybe like 1,200, 1,500. Let me know. The very next hand I look down at Jack of spades, 9 of hearts, 7 of hearts, 7 of spades from early position. I go ahead and open a 1k again and get 4 calls. By the way, poker is alive and well. We head to a flop of 8, 9, 10 with 2 diamonds, and I flop a number 2 straight with a redraw, but I don't have diamonds. I check, and the player on my left bets 3k into 5,400. When folded to me, I have to decide if my straight is good now, or if I should fold this now. And I got the impression I was ahead, so I call looking for a clean turn, which is the 5 of spades, which doesn't change anything at all. I check, my opponent pots it, I put him in, and he calls saying he needs a diamond. Thankfully, the river is the king of spades, and my straight holds up. My opponent had pocket queens with a diamond draw, so he was blocking the nuts, and just trying to represent that, as well as trying to get his equity from his draw. I was card dead for a while, and blinds ended up going up to 300, 500. From the button, I looked down at 8 of spades, 7 of hearts, 6 of hearts, 3 of spades, and limp in after 2 other people. 5 ways to a flop, we see 9 of spades, king of clubs, 7 of diamonds, giving me a pair and an open-ended straight draw. The flop gets checked around, and the free turn card is the 6 of spades, giving me 2 pair and a flush draw to go with my open-ended. An early position player makes it 2k, a middle position player raises to 6,000, and I end up jamming with this hand having turned the world. It turns out the person who raised actually had 10-8 for a straight already, and I was drawing to a spade or a boat. I end up missing and doubling this guy up, and I'm back down to about 17,000. A couple hands later, I see ace of diamonds, ace of hearts, king of spades, 9 of clubs. First time so far seeing aces. With 1 limp to me, I pot it to 2,200 and get 2 calls. The flop has 2 diamonds on it, so I fire the blocker and end up getting 1 call. We both check the turn, and I end up losing another 5,000 chips on the river when my opponent insta-calls my bet with 2 pair. Now I'm sitting on a short stack of about 8,000 chips. The very next hand I limp in with jack of diamonds, 10 of clubs, 10 of hearts, 4 hearts. This should have been a fold pre-flop, but I'm tilted, so let's fuck around and find out with some bad decision making. We end up going 4 ways to a flop of king of diamonds, 10 of spades, 3 of hearts, and I flop second set with backdoor draws. Oh yeah, let's fucking go. It's checked to me, and I pot it to 3k. The late position player snap calls, and the small blind tank check raises pot, putting me all in. I'm not folding with a set here, so I stick in my 7,400 total, and of course our opponent has king of spades, king of hearts for top set, and I'm drawing really, really thin, and pretty much ready to hit the rail here. So that is until the miracle 10 of diamonds falls from the heavens and grants me a reprieve. Let's fucking go, baby. And with that, I'm back up to almost a starting stack of around 20k, and I have some life. After losing a few smallish pots over the last couple of orbits, I look down at ace of spades, 9 of diamonds on the button. There's an early position open at 1,800, and I 3-bet this to 5,100. Feeling frisky, baby. Only an initial opener calls after the big blind tank folds, and we end up seeing a flop of ace of diamonds, 2 of spades, 3 of spades. My opponent snap shoves, and I'm not folding an ace here, so I call to see the bad news. He has me out kicked with ace of hearts, jack of diamonds. The board runs out the 4 diamonds on the turn and the 9 of hearts on the river for another come-from-behind victory. Oh yeah. Now I'm sitting on about 60,000 chips and cruising. You'll notice my stack this hand is quite a bit smaller. I had some camera issues and didn't get to record them, but I lost about 40,000 chips over a couple of orbits from smallish pots gone wrong. After hero folding king's last hand pre-flop and seeing I would have won it by rivering top boat, I looked down at ace of clubs, queen of hearts, jack of clubs, 8 of spades on the button for this hand. From a 20k stack, I call a 4k open, and we end up seeing a flop 3 ways of queen of clubs, 10 of hearts, 4 of clubs, giving me a pair, the nut flush draw, and a gutter. The aggressor leads for 8k. I go ahead and jam over, and the short stack calls off, as well as the initial better calls too. With a run out of the 4 of hearts and the 9 of spades, I end up rivering a queen high straight, which ends up being good on this paired board. It looks like the main villain flopped an open-ended straight draw with a pair and ended up bricking. I can't make out his exact hand, but he acted like he was ahead and was talking some shit, so all I could do was laugh. I don't mind being this fucking guy. I end up more than doubling it over 50,000 this hand.
The only card he can hit is a 9, this guy. No problem. Shoves it in with 1 pair and a gutter. He's on a run, Jay. This is it. You can only hit a 9. King's full. King, no good. No fucking problem.
I got clubs too.
Clubs too.
In the next hand, there's an open to 3,200 from the player on my right, and I end up 3-betting this to 9K with 9 of hearts, 9 of spades. Thankfully, everyone folds, and I take this pot down before the break starts, which is, I think that actually played a little bit. The guy was trying to steal, and, woke up with a hand and got him to fold. There have been a few hands leading up to this point that I don't have the details on, as I had my little Funko Pop blocking my view of everything, including my whole cards. So I unfortunately didn't get those hands either. What's important is that my run good has turned into run bad, and I'm now short stacked again leading up to this point. From the big blind, I look down at 2 black queens. There's an early open to 5,500, 2 calls behind it, and I go ahead and rip it for 28,500 total. I'd love to see folds all the way around here and pick this up, and I'm relieved when the initial better folds. I do get 1 call, though, from the player on my right, and he ends up calling for his 1 time as the dealer puts the 9 right in the window, and I end up out just before we end up hitting the money bubble. Well, there we have it. This event pretty much summed up my entire experience during the WSOP. I want to say that I played well for the most part, and that is probably true, but there are still points in time where I've made bad decisions and compounded mistakes. This includes playing questionable hands pre-flop, as well as not having the discipline to get away from some of the more marginal spots post-flop. I managed quite a few miracle suckouts in big pots, and in turn I took some really disgusting beats to get knocked out of these events, so I had the chance to feel every aspect of the variance swings that come with tournament play. I was considering heading back to Vegas at the end of the week, but it doesn't look like it's in the cards for me. I have some financial goals I want to hit, and this trip was what we call a shot take. I took some risk with part of my bankroll and missed, so I have to rebuild and get to a more comfortable spot before doing that again. I am, however, making some plans for tournaments here in Florida. Daytona is hosting Matt Berkey at the end of July for a $570 buy-in, 300K guarantee event, so I'll be playing that for sure. Daytona is also hosting the Moneymaker Tour at the end of August, so I'll be planning for that as well. I'll be doing another video talking about my tournament plans for the next few months with the details on the events, so look for that soon. Thank you all for tuning in and sharing my journey with me. It means a lot to have your support and to have so many people cheering me on. Don't forget to share the channel, drop a like and comments, and if you're looking for other ways to support me, consider picking up a t-shirt such as the This Fucking Guy shirt or the Wanted Poster shirt. Thanks again, peeps. I'm Joey Pigtails, and I am transparent, reminding you to be a good human and to be kind. Always be kind. Bye!